Good morning, friends. This is Pastor Lorri from First United Methodist Church in Kirksville. And I don't know if it's this way for you, but for me, it feels like it has been a really long time since last Friday. I know it's just 7 days. I've seen them on the calendar, but it feels like a long time. And so, as I ask that question that I do every week, how is it with your soul? I would just simply encourage us to take a minute to pause and really think about our answer to that question. Sometimes it may be, well, maybe you don't do this, but I do this at home with my kids especially. They'll say, "Mom, are you okay?" And I'll say, "Oh, yeah, I'm fine." And they look at me with these disbelieving looks on their face and go, "No, you are not fine. Nothing in your body language says that you're fine." And so sometimes I think it's easier to think, to say, maybe even to ourselves, that things are just okay, to not really claim and own and be honest about the ways that we're feeling. There may be times where instead of fine, we're excited. We are happy. We are overjoyed. And there may be times where instead of fine, we're worried, we're scared, we have the sense of doom and gloom. And all of those are, and sometimes it's a big ball of all of that wrapped in together like yarn or necklaces or jewelry that's gotten all mixed in together. And it's hard to even piece out which things are which. But being honest about that answer, how is it with your soul, is so important. I was reminded of that this morning. I pulled up my memories on Facebook just to see what I had been doing on January 22nd over the last few years, ever since Facebook became a part of my life. Like most people, sometimes I'm ready to ditch it out the window. Other times I think, oh, I really like looking back and remembering. But this one came from 7 years ago, and I was in seminary at that time, and I was reading in Lamentations, and the notes in my Bible read, "Lamentations is the book where saints from the past teach us how to grieve in the present. There'll be no recovery, no renovation, and no rebirth until there's first the legitimate expression of grief, the public processing of pain, and the honest admission of our true situation. Lamentations is the part of the Bible that teaches us how to grieve, how to be angry with God when we need to be, and how to weep when tears are necessary." And that is just such a wonderful thing, isn't it? Because sometimes there are a few places where we can really be honest about how we're feeling. And I took a glance through the book of Lamentations this morning. It had been a little while since I'd actually opened it up, and I was reminded that it is brutally honest. I say, those that wrote it did not hold back. There are verses, "My eyes are spent with weeping and my stomach churns. My bile is poured out on the ground because of the destruction of my people." There are some very vivid descriptions of grief and the bad parts of life. And we know that there are always going to be those bad parts of life. Sometimes we wish we had a crystal ball, right? So we could know what's coming ahead. And while I don't have one of those to give any specifics, I know that there will be bad things that happen in the future. And there will also be good things that happen. And sometimes they'll be one and the same. Sometimes something will have both good and bad aspects, either at different points in time or for different people involved. And that's part of what makes life so chaotic and messy and so hard to categorize into simple categories. Try though we will, because I think there's sometimes something about our brains that wants to put things into little boxes. This is a good thing, this is a bad thing, and if we could somehow just get the entire world sorted that way, life would be simpler. Well, it might be simpler, but that's not the reality of the world. And just like if we ate the same thing for breakfast every single day forever, it might also become a little bland. So as I was looking through this Lamentations, I also found there's a beautiful picture of hope sandwiched in the middle of this very honest grief. And these are the verses that we often quote from Lamentations. It's from chapter 3, verses 21 through 24. The steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They're new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore, I will hope in God. But those are sandwiched. That's not the way this book of the Bible ends. It actually ends with, has God forgotten me forever type of sentiment. So I guess today, what I was thinking about is what really is on my mind is honestly, how is it with your soul? I'm asking myself that question, and I would encourage you to do that same thing. How is it with your soul? Because wherever it is, whether it is at peace and rest, and if it's overjoyed, if it's worried, if it feels so heavy that there's no hope of a tomorrow, it's only by being honest by that with God, with ourselves, and hopefully with some trusted people around us. It's only when we can start with that place of honesty that we can go forward. So my friends, I pray for you in these days ahead. Until we see each other again next Friday, may God's mercy pave your path. May God's grace be an open door. And may you be filled with the courage to claim honestly where you're at right now. Go in peace, my friends, and I'll see you next week.